With me this week is Amanda Kepshire. Amanda, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How's it going for you?
Awesome. It's going fantastic. Amanda, if you could break it down for us real quick.
Yeah.
Vertical marketing, what's that
hmm
about?
The best way to describe vertical marketing is it's essentially product marketing, but instead of honing like into a specific product only, you're really digging into a specific industry. So in my case, I'm a senior vertical marketing manager and I focus on our healthcare market. And so I'm really digging into that side of our business when it comes to those customers, articulating the messaging and positioning of CallRail and our solutions to that audience. So while I'm close to the product, I'm like really paying close attention to that industry.
Nice. I like it a lot. So, if we can dive deep, we're going to pretend right now you're working into the practice, right? And you're working in the industry. And if it's okay, if we can kind of pick your brain on some of the problems we've been seeing and maybe some solutions that you may have and answers. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, let's do
Awesome.
it.
So let's talk about the foundation here.
Okay.
Why do so many practices sometimes they have no idea which marketing actually brings them patients? Why is this happening?
First, they're probably not utilizing any kind of tool that will help them do this. Trying to track where patients are coming from without a tool is very manual and pretty unreliable. So you're having to both remember to ask the patient where they first heard about you, but then you also have to hope that they remember specifically. You also might not be getting the full story, right? So without a tool, you're not only missing learning on where your patients are coming from, but then you're also in the dark about that patient experience. And that experience is important for bringing in new patients, right? But it's also important for keeping them as a patient, as well as hoping that they're going to recommend you to somebody else that they know or come across. And it's just hard to know how all calls are being handled without that behind the scenes insight.
Gotcha. So when it comes to the patient experience, what questions can we ask ourselves to understand the patient experience better?
So that's a great question. Think about if you're a patient, you're a first time caller, right? Say, I'm like, I want a teeth whitening treatment. So I'm on Google, I'm looking up dentists that offer teeth whitening treatments. And I have my list and I make a first phone call and they pick up and maybe I'm like in a rush, right? Or I get immediately put on hold or maybe my call doesn't go through at all. It's just missed, right? And so there's that side of things, right? Like to get that first touch point to stick. Because if my call doesn't go through, or maybe like I hang up and I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel like they really took time to answer my questions, or I just don't have clarity. I might put like a question mark on my list next to them and I might move on to the next one and call another one. So there's that side of things. Also, just making sure that you have that consistency with your staff. So making sure that calls are being handled pretty consistently across the board, no matter who's picking it up, that the questions are being answered correctly, that tone of voice, kind of that customer service type of sentiment is there, and just making sure that the person on the other line feels heard, feels welcome, feels comfortable, especially when you're talking about dental work. Because like I might be calling in about teeth whitening, which would be an elective thing, but I also might be having some pain and I might be scared of the dentist, right? And so if you're on a call, if you make it that first phone call and the person might be snappy or cold, that's not going to sit well. And so just wanting to make sure that you understand what's actually happening on these calls and how might that affect the patient or potential patient's experience.
Interesting. Okay. If a dentist isn't tracking anything, what would be the very first, simplest step you tell
Yeah.
them to take?
I mean, shameless plug for CallRail. I would say start a free trial with CallRail. I mean, you get 2 full weeks, no cost, no commitment, and just get things set up. It's really easy. If you get confused, you can get connected with a rep and they'll get you set up. Normally, this kind of stuff can get set up within 30 minutes. We offer a whole suite of solutions, but even if you start with our bread and butter, which is call tracking and form tracking, I mean,
Mhm.
get those tracking numbers set up and just start getting some of those initial insights into your current marketing campaigns and how well they're performing. So that would be honestly the first simple way to go about it. And then you can always build from there.
Do you think that happens a lot, Amanda, where someone's telling like our marketing's not working, and then it's just more of like a gut feeling than actually looking at the numbers and saying like, actually, it kind of is. It's just the conversions on the phone that's not working or.
I mean, it could be both. So you could be having marketing efforts that are falling flat and you're just not getting calls coming in from those efforts. Or, it could be that maybe you're getting traction from your marketing channels, but then where things are falling off are when those phone calls are happening. And maybe a bigger problem could be around how those calls are being handled, or it could be a combination of the two. And so it's going to be hard to know that if you don't have insight into either of those.
Interesting. So gaining insight is like the very, very first thing everybody should do when it comes to just having a business marketing plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So then let's transition to quick wins that we can have.
Sure.
What's something most practices notice in the first month when they start tracking their calls?
Okay. I think that they just realize what marketing channels are actually working. So they can see with certainty that, for example, their Google business profile generated X amount of calls this week. The other thing is that they realize what kind of money is being wasted on current marketing channels that maybe just aren't as fruitful. So usually within the first 30 to 60 days, it becomes pretty clear which channels are underperforming. So they might be spending hundreds to thousands of dollars on a channel, a marketing campaign that's producing very few high value calls. And so this allows them to see that, and then you can pivot and reallocate that budget towards the channels that are producing high quality leads.
Gotcha. If we were to be like, yeah, let's go with CallRail, I want to see the 14 days. Is it hard just in general, like really asking, it's not like a dumb question. I want to know, like, is it hard to figure it out? Like, do I have to know the terminology, KPIs and all that stuff, or how does that
No,
look?
not at all. So when you get started, first of all, you'll get like the onboarding process that will walk you through things. There will be somebody who will reach out to you on our sales side to help you kind of kick things off, answer any questions that you might have. Even though when you start, it's free and there's not a credit card required or anything, like you can still get that support if you're like, this is overwhelming. I'm scared of technology. I don't even know where to begin. Like you have someone that can help you, but it is very easy and straightforward. And the way CallRail is set up too is once you get everything set up in place, specifically you would start with those tracking numbers. It walks you through on how to set it up, how to get everything connected to your website and everything. It walks you through that. But then at a high level to see these insights, you've got a dashboard. So it's got everything right in front of you in very plain language. So it's not anything that is full of jargon or you have to be like a marketing guru to understand what's going on.
I liked it a lot. So a lot of owners spend money on ads, mailers, social media, all this type of marketing. What's the most common place they're wasting money without realizing it?
Of course, like what I mentioned earlier about those positive and negative marketing channels and what's working, what's not. But ultimately, I mean, that's going to depend on the practice and what happens to work for them. So, some offices might be pushing a ton of spend into print ads and they're just not working. But then another office in, another state, they might get the most traction from print ads. So it's hard to say specifically if it's ads, mailers, social media, because it's very situational. But I will say that the other thing that we see quite often is that CallRail gives that clear visibility into the front desk performance and patient handling, like I had mentioned. How I had said before too, like wanting to make sure that there's that consistency and that they're providing the good experience so that you get more of those calls converted to appointments. Because ultimately, each caller has a marketing dollar amount attached to them. So if you are spending X amount of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on certain ads, you've got that cost per lead. So I think looking at it from that lens, you can really think about the money being tied to it and the waste, so to speak.
Yeah, you're right. That there is a dollar attached to every single person. So when you look at the practice's calls, especially when you're doing like an analysis on the industry or an analysis on each practice, what's the first sign that the office is losing patients on the phone?
Two things for that. So first, I'd probably say missed calls. And nearly every practice is surprised when they see the metrics around their missed call rates and then the potential lifetime value of that missed opportunity. Like, yes, the marketing amount that's attached to that call, but then also if we had converted them as a patient, like what would that look like? So the missed call side of things, I think, would be one aspect of it. And then on the other side, it would be, again, how those calls are being handled. So our transcription analysis allows you to review calls and see what your staff's call handling looks like. And so this allows for the training opportunities and that quality assurance across all areas of the practice. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much you're spending on marketing efforts if those prospective patients have a poor experience once they make that call and they don't end up booking that appointment.
1000%. Before we dive into the transcription analysis, missed calls, can you give us some data behind that? Like, when do you see people miss calls the most? Is it after hours, before, or?
Yeah, it can depend, especially on like the size of your practice, right? And like what your staff looks like and how many people do you have that are available to answer the phone? Do you have people who are juggling trying to offer patient care and the face-to-face experience when a patient comes in the door versus getting on the call? So definitely you're going to see that after hours. A lot of times too, you can see it at the beginning of a week. That's pretty common in the medical world, right? If there's non-urgent stuff, you're like, ooh, this hurts. Like I don't need something over the weekend. Like I'm not in excruciating pain, but like I got to make this call first thing Monday morning. And then too, a lot of times kind of around that lunch hour, because sometimes like things get a little bit busier or some offices might close down for 30 minutes to an hour. I think we've all had to make a phone call on our lunch break trying to schedule something. And then you get that automated message of we're closed for lunch between 1 and 2, like give us a call back. So I think those are probably the spikes that you would see most often.
A lot of the times we depend on, they'll leave a voicemail. Do they though? Or what happens there?
I think part of it would have to do with how that practice is set up. Do they allow for a good voicemail experience? Is it something that you kind of have to get a workaround with? I know typically I don't leave a voicemail unless it is like my actual provider. Like I might leave a voicemail with my GP or maybe my dentist because I've been a patient there for a while. But I'm thinking like if I was a new caller, would I leave a voicemail? Probably not. I'd probably move on to the next one on my list if I'm trying to be established as a new patient or looking for a specific service.
I like your perspective of that.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't, right? If you're a new patient, you wouldn't leave a voicemail. So then your next step would be what? Just like finding the next person or?
Unless I had a very strong recommendation. So say I moved to a new area and I know, I'm at work and I'm like, hey, I need to find a new dentist. Does anybody have any recommendations? And my new coworker is like, oh my gosh, you have to go to Dr. Michael, right? He's fantastic. He's the best. This is the practice name, number, whatever. I might call and I don't get through. And I'm like, okay, well, this is who I knew I want to go to because I've had such a strong referral. So I'll either leave a voicemail or call back later. But if I'm not getting a recommendation and I'm just on Google and I'm looking at reviews or I'm just kind of seeing what's closest to where I live, there's a good chance I would be like, okay, well, I don't have any ties to this. So let me just move on to the next one on the list and see if I can get someone on the phone to get myself established.
Interesting. So let's go with that from this point on, like with that perspective of like, also Amanda's looking for a practice, right? So when it comes to marketing ads, obviously you mentioned referrals is probably like your biggest one, right? But besides that, what to you would be like, I'm going to reach my phone and call them, or I'm going to reach out to them and dig a little bit deeper. What kind of ad would it be? I guess the way it looks or the way it is, or where it would be, like Facebook, Instagram, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask for some of that. I'm not a big social media user. So I'm not going to be one that's likely going to find something on Facebook or Instagram. So I'm going to get that target via Google or maybe some of my other online searches where there's maybe some geographical ads coming up, on pages that I'm on. And as a marketer, I don't know if this happens to you too, but as a marketer, I'll pay attention to marketing more, or I'll like notice when things get me. I'm like, that marketing tactic, it worked on me, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like from a dental perspective, visually speaking, it would have to be something that looks cheery, like people who are happy, good smiles, things like that. So I would want to see that in any kind of visual ad. And then it would be a priority around location, right? I live in Charleston, South Carolina. It's not the same kind of traffic in a big city, but we're overcrowded. So like I'm going to want to stay within a certain radius of myself. And so I think those kind of geo-targeted ads come in really handy, probably everywhere, but maybe in some locations more than others. So I think if I know where it is if it's something that's just visually appealing, that makes me think like, oh, this looks like a pleasant dental experience. I'm luckily not one that has a dental fear, but I'm going to be looking for something that looks professional, but also warm and welcoming at the same time. That's going to get me to inquire it. But I'm also one that's going to dig into reviews. So I might see something and say, ooh, this looks good. But then I'm going to go Google the name of this practice and I'm going to see where are they and what are their Google reviews, right? Like, oh, you've got a 4.8. Okay. Oh, but there's only 8 reviews here. But if there's a bunch of reviews and I'm kind of clicking through and it's positive experiences for the most part across the board, that's going to make me pick up the phone more than anything.
Gotcha. Okay, I like that. And so you pick up the phone, you make the call. They're really nice. They're wonderful. Do you ever ask, do you take my insurance or no?
Oh, absolutely.
If they said no, would that be an immediate turn off and you're just like, okay, well, thank you, bye?
No, definitely. I mean, for me, I've got dental insurance. I'm not going to pay more out of pocket, if I don't have to. So yeah, that would be one of the first questions that I would ask. And normally, in my experience, they'll ask you, do you have dental insurance? Who's your provider? And they'll typically let you know. I feel like that's usually one of the first things that's asked. But yeah, that would be a deal breaker for me. I feel like it would be for most people.
Interesting. Because there's a lot of fee-for-service offices, right, where they don't take any insurances, but they do bill for them and stuff like that. Would that ever be an option for you?
As a patient who has dental insurance through my employer, I'm like, what's going to be the less out of my wallet, right? But I think that there can be a trade-off because I've heard the argument for both sides. I've heard, I don't know if this is true, maybe that a lot of times the argument is that the care is better or more thorough or you get more time. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. I'm just on the marketing side of things. Yeah. But me personally, insurance would be a deal breaker. I mean, that's pretty much the case with any kind of medical provider, unless it's the type of care that typically just isn't covered by insurance, like chiropractors and stuff.
So you're on the phone, you found them, reviews you like, everything's great, wonderful. You call them, they don't take your insurance. What would be the thing where it would make you, over the phone, remember, you haven't gone inside yet to look, and this is great. What would be the thing to make you be like, yeah, I'll check it out?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't know, unless they offered an experience or something that, I don't know, we have a spa feel in our dental office and, it's a different kind of experience than you might get elsewhere or whatever. I might be intrigued by something like that, like the experience, oh, this is a different type of care or another layer on top of it that I might be intrigued to go check it out. It's hard to say because I think I'm very oh, you don't take my insurance, on to the next.
Yeah, because I don't know if you'd start thinking I wasn't even looking for that experience.
Right. I think it would pique my interest and be oh, okay. But that would be interesting for it to be enough over the phone because I feel that kind of thing, someone telling you about it, a lot of people would easily dismiss that and just be okay, whatever. That's not even what I'm looking for. I'm not going to pay extra for that. I don't need a massage chair or a heated blanket during my dental experience. I just want to get my 6-month checkup and be in and be out.
Yeah. So it has to be very, very unique or very different, right?
For me personally, yeah. I would be curious if you ask this to other people, what some of your responses are typically, if I'm the odd man out here.
No, this is actually pretty gold because there are not many times we get someone on the other side who we're trying to market to, kind of a thing. So that'd be interesting to know if there's ever a situation where it's this specifically over the phone will make me, okay, I'll go check it out. Whether it's a free incentive or, hey, just come on in for free kind of a thing.
I think that would have to be the case. There would have to be an incentive to get me to walk through that door. That would make me go, okay, I'll check it out. What that would be, I don't know. Whether it's hey, if you're due for your x-rays, we'll do a free round of x-rays, or whether it's come in for some kind of fill-in-the-blank superficial thing that might make me go, okay, I'll come check it out. And then maybe once you get there and you have that experience and you meet the staff and you see the space, you might be okay, I'm going to consider this. Yeah, that's a good point. Over the phone, I think there'd have to be some kind of incentive or promo that would make me go, all right, I'll give it a shot. And if it doesn't stick, I'll move on to the next.
So for practices, especially in fee-for-service, the main goal would be then, ethically, get them in and then show them who you are, give them the experience. But if you can get them in,
right,
the battle's almost won, kind of a thing.
And I think that's the challenge because if you even think about just your average consumer now, not just in the medical space, but in general, everybody is very go, go, go. Everybody is looking for that instant gratification or instant solution, right? Where you're just trying to get things checked off your to-do list and you're trying to move on to the next thing. And so a lot of times when things get hung up, like how many times do you get on Amazon, there's something that you want and then you're like, not going to be delivered for 2 weeks. I mean, how many times you're like, let me see if there's a different version of this that I can get in 2 days. So I think we're just now programmed just in how consumerism works for things to be so quick and easy that we don't want to spend too much time thinking about it and we don't want to spend too much time sifting.
So then what's the solution, especially for a dentist, that you feel can combat that? What could we do?
I think just being quick to respond and quick to get back to somebody and to get back in a personalized way, because that's another thing that we're now very programmed for. And so I think from the perspective of like a dental office and like a front desk staff, being equipped with the information and tools to be able to do that. So like kind of going back to this call tracking and call handling and things. And I think a big piece of this now, like everywhere else in the world, is that AI piece, right? Like artificial intelligence is everywhere, technology is everywhere, it's not going anywhere. And so I think being able to utilize that in a way that can elevate an experience for a potential patient or current patient and also make it easier on that staff. For example, if I make a phone call to a dentist office inquiring about, are you taking new patients? I'm looking for a new provider. I just moved here. This is my insurance, blah, blah, blah. You might be getting several calls like that a day. And so with the use of AI, you can get summaries of those calls. So you get those call recordings, but who has time to sit down and listen to a bunch of 5 to 10 minute long phone conversations? So breaking that down into looking at that call summary and then utilizing AI features like within CallRail that will pull out common phrases that are across different phone calls. So like maybe you're seeing a lot of the same kind of questions that are coming up over the course of a day or a week of this is a common frequently asked question from patients or common keywords that come up. And those are things that can be used then to interact with your patients, one-on-one, so that if you're calling back a specific caller and you know that this is what the prior conversation was about, but also to utilize for, hey, we're seeing a lot of questions around X, Y, and Z, and we don't really have much about that on our website. Or maybe we need to add this to our like FAQ page. Or maybe we need to create some ads that have a visual appeal or even just language around it that speaks to some of this stuff, because we're seeing that this is what prospective patients are asking about, what they care about. And that is a way to tailor your message and your interaction broadly and personally.
Yeah. I know it's the coaching program on CallRail, but what is it called specifically?
Convert Assist.
Convert Assist, yes. Because I think it's fantastic when you have that set of eyes. For example, if I'm like the only front office, or maybe you can have 2 or 3, right? In the front office, everybody's busy talking about billing, talking to patients, doing all this stuff. And you're on the phone. Oh, yeah, we do that. Oh, no, we don't do that. Yeah, come in and see us, right? A whole log of a week or maybe even a day passes. And you don't even realize that 8 out of 10 maybe talked about Invisalign. And you're like, yeah, we're a general practice, but you starting to notice once you do that, the analysis.
Right. You might be thinking of our conversation intelligence or our premium conversation intelligence, which provides that recording of the call, the transcription, and then that summary. And then you can dig into those summaries and like the sentiments of the call. So whether it was like a positive or negative call, and then that can help you prioritize leads and offer personalization for those interactions. And then you can also tag calls with certain keywords or phrases so that those show up, and then automate that lead qualification process too, based on terms or phrases. And then from there to automate follow-up emails or text messages. So there's that side of things. And then on the Convert Assist side, it takes things a step further with those transcriptions and summaries that come from the premium conversation intelligence. So that's where the coaching comes in for your team. So it can create a follow-up or give you an action plan on what you might want to do with that lead. Sometimes it might be as simple as, your feedback is, hey, this is a great call, done. Or it might be hey, next time, like handle this call this way or that way. And then you can also see, is the way calls are being handled, is this something that we're seeing across the board for the whole team? Or maybe there are a couple of team members that the calls are going a little bit differently. And that could just be an opportunity for some more training, especially maybe if you have someone new, that you're able to get those insights and then dig in a little bit deeper across the staff.
No, that's brilliant. It's all fantastic, but I really, really like that, especially the part you start noticing the keywords. You're like, okay, we should probably start talking about this a little bit more, right? Or start mentioning it a little bit more. Let's put it up, answer questions, like you said in the FAQ, have ads for it, and then it starts rolling in a little bit easier. You start noticing what people are reaching out to you for and so much more. One thing I wanted to ask you is many owners say, my front desk already asks every new patient how they heard about us. We hear this all the time. So why is that system broken and how do you fix it?
That's a great question. So there are two issues with leaning on only asking the patient or prospective patient, and that is disparate data and nonlinear patient journeys. The first part of that is you might be asking these questions, but where is that documented? Is that something that's being put in that CRM? Is that something that's being put in their chart? Is that something that is just living in a staff member's brain? Is it in a spreadsheet? Like, it could be all over the place. So there's that. And also nowadays, we're not in the age where you get a phone book and you make a phone call and like, this is how you got here. Now there's just a larger digital journey that can happen. And so you don't necessarily know the path somebody took to get to you. And so the answer to that is pretty much that the best information comes from both software lead attribution and the self-reporting piece, because those two pieces of data go hand in hand. So the cool thing about CallRail is that you can capture both. So obviously with the tracking side of things with CallRail, we can tell you how the caller got to you. But then when you have a conversation with that person, we also can capture them self-reporting. And so if you have your staff, asking, how did you hear about us? That can get picked up by AI and get detected, extracted, and then those insights are included in the reporting. Maybe they clicked on an ad or they went directly to your website, and that's how CallRail sees that they came to you. But then you're talking to them on the phone and they say, oh, a friend told me about you, or, oh, I saw your billboard on I-95. So you've got two pieces of information there. And so one, you hear exactly what they've told you. And then two, you see what then their digital journey looked like, is maybe their first touch was a recommendation from a friend, but then they went straight to your website. Or they forgot about it and they were scrolling on Facebook and they saw your ad pop up and they're like, oh, that's who my friend was telling me about. And then they click on it from there. And so you get a bigger story. And if you're only relying on what they're telling you, you're also, I think I mentioned this towards the beginning of the call, of just, they might not remember, or they might misremember, or they might not necessarily say, oh, I saw your ad on Instagram. They might think, oh, it was Facebook, or they might just say, I saw it on the internet. You might not get an accurate piece of information as well. There's a whole bunch of things that go into it, but at the end of the day, it's just not necessarily as accurate or the fullest story.
Yeah, it's not so much clarity, right? It's just like an answer kind of a thing, but not the solution for it. Correct. Interesting. I like that a lot. So then in the simplicity form of this, if I'm a busy dentist and I only have 5 minutes a week to check if my marketing is working, what's the one thing I should look at?
Would provide you with a lot of information. And that would be your CallRail dashboard, because you can get a lot of high-level insights just from logging into your profile and seeing this dashboard. So you can see the number of calls that you got during that day, week, plus the number of first-time callers. You can see the overall call insights and like the primary topics that were discussed, like we talked about. You can see an easy-to-read pie chart that shows where your calls are coming from, like website, your Google ads, your social media, whatever channels you're using. And you can even see like how many unanswered calls there were and what we talked about before, the days and the times that those occurred. It's one thing, but there's a lot of information just right in front of you that you could get in 5 minutes or less. So that would be my recommendation.
Nice. And now what about if we don't have CallRail? What's the one thing I should look at then if I have 5 minutes a week? Yeah, I'm a person and I'm like, hey, is my marketing working? What's the one thing I should look at?
I mean, I think that at that point, you would have to be relying on those conversations that your staff are having with patients and be pretty rigorous around how that information is captured. and, try to get as granular as possible. If that's the case, you're going to want your staff to be trained very strategically in how they ask that question. So it's not just, hey, how did you hear about us? But maybe even presenting some options of, hey, would love to know how you first heard about us. Did you Google us? Did someone tell you about us? Did you see our ads on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, to try to get a more detailed response versus that broad, the internet kind of response. And then just, I don't know, I feel like you'd have to have a spreadsheet or something so you don't have to deal with people putting this information in different places. And even that, unfortunately, is only going to give you a small piece of the story. But I feel like that's where you'd probably have to start.
Interesting. So then what's the one question I should ask my front desk every week to make sure we're not missing new patients if we didn't have CallRail?
I feel like it would be twofold. Can I ask two questions? One would be kind of going back to our previous conversation with the last question around, did you capture every patient interaction this week? Did you capture how they heard about us? Did we get that information? Do we have it? But then the other side of things, I would want to know, how many missed calls did we get? So at the very least, let me just assume that our phone system will show us how many missed calls we got on a daily basis or something. So I think that would be a question that I would want to know, because while knowing where your marketing is coming from is one thing, but if you're missing a lot of calls, that's another thing. And that's definitely missing. I mean, they could be existing patients, but they could be new ones too. If I didn't have CallRail, I would be asking, how many missed calls did we have this week?
I like it. If you did have CallRail, though, what's that one question?
Kind of sticking to this, how many missed calls did we get? I would first, as the practice manager or the dentist, I would look at the CallRail dashboard. And then in my staff meeting or whatever, I would say, how many missed calls do you think we have this week? And see if the staff could guess, and then articulate, this is actually how many calls that were missed. And then also I would want to ask, how many new patient calls came in this week? And then look at that number compared to how many did we schedule? And so I think when you have a tool like CallRail, it opens up the door for more insights, but also for more conversation with your staff. So that's something, if you're having a weekly team meeting, whether maybe it's Monday morning or Friday morning or whatever, to be able to do a look back on the week prior and say, this is how many missed calls we had. This is how many new patient calls that came in. And this is how many patients that we got scheduled. And then be able to look at those numbers week over week, month over month, and be able to see the progress there. And even maybe setting new goals that we're going to try to get less than X amount of missed calls this week. Or we're going to try to get X percentage of appointments booked based on the new patient calls that come in. I think that there's a lot you can do with that data, and then take those baby steps to, make it even better.
I like that. And then now looking ahead, Amanda.
Yeah.
As we know, marketing keeps changing. So what's one habit a practice owner can build now so they're never blind to what's working, no matter how things shift?
I would say first, not shying away from new technology, including AI. And it really is so easy, especially with CallRail. I know I mentioned that, but truly, once you get set up, even if you're just starting with the very basics of call tracking and form tracking, and then you can build upon those tools for additional functionality and insights later on down the road once you get comfortable. But I think recognizing that technology, AI isn't going anywhere, and you have to consider that other offices down the street from you are very likely already exploring these tools if they're not already using them and benefiting from them. So I think that the practices that win won't just be the ones that market the most or have the most creative marketing. They'll be the ones that can prove which marketing works, and then doubling down on the channels that reliably drive new patients to their door, as well as providing that best patient experience like we talked about. So I think all of that to say that just embracing technology and AI, as intimidating as it can be for some people, but starting small and then building from a V1 of embracing it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what's the biggest trap coming for practices in the next 5 years when it comes to marketing or tracking patients, and how can they avoid it?
A couple of things. So one, I think losing visibility into where patients are coming from, just as privacy regulations tighten and the third-party cookies disappear, and just a lot of changes and evolution in digital advertising platforms, and things just kind of seem to keep getting more complex. And I think many dental practices are already struggling to connect the dots between marketing efforts and actual booked appointments. So without the right tracking in place, the challenge is only going to be worse. You said, how can they avoid it?
Mm-hmm.
I think a few things. So one being owning your own data. So relying less on third-party platforms like Google and Facebook for the insights and more on your firsthand tracking with your own tracking tools. The second thing I would say is make sure that your tracking tools support HIPAA compliance. Privacy laws are always evolving, and you just want to make sure that you protect patient data and you protect your practice from any kind of lawsuit. A lot of those violations come out of small offices. So I think a lot of times it's tempting to think like, oh, we'll be fine, right? No one's going to notice us. And so I think just like really making sure that you're staying on top of your compliance. The next thing I would say is connecting your marketing to revenue. So don't just stop at clicks or calls. Use conversation intelligence and lead scoring so that you do know which inquiries actually turned into patients. And then finally, I'd mentioned this before, but start simple, especially if you're a small practice or if, technology scares you or AI scares you, just start with basic call tracking. And then you can add on to that and build a more robust system and process with time. You don't have to go all in right out the gate. You can start small and build from there. And the good thing about that too is you get comfortable with it and you start to see the insights and the value, and then you're a little less hesitant to add the next thing on and try the next thing.
Yeah, I like it. Awesome. Awesome. Amanda, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. But before we say goodbye, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So me personally, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's pretty much the only social media platform I'm on. Just my full name, Amanda Kepshire. You can find me on there. And then check out CallRail. CallRail's on LinkedIn. CallRail is on all the main social media platforms. Check out our website. The content that CallRail puts out is going to be far more interesting than what I put out. So we've got a great marketing and content team. So lots of great information and educational pieces that come out of our platforms.
Awesome. And if anybody wants CallRail, what can they do?
Go to our website, and literally any page that you're on our website, there's going to be a button that says start a free trial. I would recommend, we've got a specific page for healthcare, callrail.com/healthcare, and start a free trial. And if you have questions, there's a link as well to connect with somebody. But as soon as you start that trial, we'll get alerted on our side. So someone will reach out to you to see if you have any questions, need any help, and take them up on it if you need it.
Nice. So if we started the free trial, sign up, start it, 14 days, you'd guide us throughout the process. You would kind of like, hey, this is what you're going to look for, kind of a thing throughout the whole time.
Yeah. We've got a whole onboarding email process that'll guide you through it. And even within the CallRail software, you'll be guided. So don't be scared. Just hop in, give it a try, and no commitment. It's not one of those tricky things, where you think you get a trial and then it makes you put in your credit card information and you're like, no, we don't do that. If you are impressed, which we think you will be, then you add your credit card when you're ready to commit and become a customer. You're more than welcome to just test it out for those 2 weeks, see what you think, and then let it speak for itself.
Nice. Awesome. So that's all going to be in the show notes below. So definitely check it out and get that trial. And Amanda, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to be here.